Hey there, YouTube. We're gonna hop into our Israeli news. Some of it's a little, couple days old because this is the news I collected last week. But I wanted to make sure we talked about it because the Palestinian people deserve to have their voice heard. So I wanted to make sure that this was out here. And let's make sure. Yeah, I'll get that. So it happened in Hebron yesterday. So this was October 3rd. So it's actually almost a month ago. Israel settlers held a provocative dancing concert inside the Al-Ilbrami Mosque in a clear violation of the sacredness of the place. So this is, of course, not the first time we've seen this. This is actually pretty common. They intentionally will try to, blaspheme certain locations in an attempt to, intentionally piss off and it's just really petty. It's just really petty nonsense. But anyway, we have seen this before. ISRAEL. Okay, so I actually did have that right. I'll change the color in a minute. But this is just an attempt to say, like, we don't respect your religion. We don't want you here. We're going to take your spaces and we're going to do all the things you don't want us to do in them. And so it's not just a celebration. It's an intentional act to say, we want to eliminate you, and we can't wait to step all over you. We can't wait to take over your spaces and assimilate, your area and, kick you out of your spaces. And we're gonna, show the maximum amount of disrespect, in your spaces. And taxpayers pay for it. I mean, that's the thing, is that U.S. taxpayers are paying for this. We're paying for their military to have the tools and training that they need to push the Palestinians around and to do things like this. And it's amazing to me how many people you can get on board with fucking over a whole other section of people. It's amazing to me how easily you can get millions of people on board with just fucking over. And it doesn't matter, World War II, Nazis, Jews. No, we're not going to make any of those comparisons. All that's anti-Semitism, right? Hand wave it all away. But I mean, it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what flavor of religion. It doesn't matter what flavor of nationalism, whatever country you're from. This kind of ignorance is universal. It's just, we see this everywhere. And if we're not constantly aware of it, if we're not constantly calling it out, if we're not constantly pushing back, if we're allowing it to take over our institutions of power, this is what comes of it. It's really quite offensive. They're not welcome here. They're not welcome here. They have plenty of spaces to do this. It's not like they're hard up for spaces. They got plenty of spaces of their own to do this. They're coming here. They're intentionally doing this in this space because it's a power thing. It's a power thing, and it's really quite sad. It's really, it's like, especially like, it's sad that they're doing this all under the auspices of religion, of like a merciful and lovely God that, that wants everybody to live in peace and harmony. And here they are using that God and using that religion, directly as a bludgeon, as a tool, as a weapon, against an entire population of people. I can't imagine if this religious shit was real, that the people up in space or whatever the fuck they're hanging out in. I can't imagine that they would want their religion represented this way. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they do want their religion represented this way as a bunch of jerks that just dominate you if you don't believe in what they believe in. Maybe that's what they want. I don't know. Maybe that's the whole idea there. I thought this was interesting and fair to point out that when you're talking about Ukraine, if you're in the mainstream media, if you're talking about Ukraine, it's we're helping them with an illegal invasion. This is a war. This is not a special operation. But when you see Israel talked about in mainstream media, when you see their actions, it's annexation. It's not, it's not, illegally taking over. And to be fair, I mean, MSNBC and some of the lefty media will get somewhat real about the Palestinian crisis sometimes, but it's almost always covered under like this, where it's I'm sorry, they won't use the term annexation. They won't use the term illegal when it comes to Palestine. They won't use those terms. But they have no problem pointing that out for Ukraine. And it's clear that there's a bias, and you could get into the reasons why. There's a very clear reason why. It's the Israeli lobbies and Israeli interests in the United States. That it's weird. It's kind of like it's cyclical, right? Because it's like Israel has its power and influence because of our money and resources, and then they use those money and resources and power to further influence our government to then receive more resources and to create this fear, this kind of fear media response, this fearful media response, where if you criticize Israel, you're immediately targeted as an anti-Semite, and you have to go through the whole process of say I'm not an anti-Semite, well, yada yada yada. You got to prove it, and it doesn't matter. It's the accusation's already made. You're fired from your job. You have a million people from Israel now reaching out to your employer to get you fired and things like that. So, but this is a clear bias in mainstream media, how Palestine is covered versus other places. And if you watch enough news, you'll see it. Like especially when Palestine and Israel is brought up. They never use language that would imply that what Israel is doing is technically wrong, and they always skirt around that issue that what Israel is doing to Palestine is totally illegal. Sometimes they do. Sometimes you'll see examples, but they're few and far between, quite honest. And every time they are like sympathetic to the Palestinians, I'm sure they get 50 million emails. How dare you? You're anti-Semites. You hate Jews. They're trying to kill us. They're trying to destroy us, and yada yada. It goes on and on and on and on and on and on. And so yeah, I mean, here's a great example. Actually, here's Velshi, proving my point that sometimes the truth does squeak through on MSNBC and some of the lefty networks, some of the lefty mainstream networks, but it's definitely not going to squeak through on Morning fucking Joe. Ex-Republican Morning Joe, pretty pro-Israel Morning Joe. But once in a while, the truth does squeak through.
Palestinians are, at best, third-class citizens in the nation of their birth. The idea that it's even remotely controversial to call what Israel has imposed on Palestinians a form of apartheid is laughable. One look at a current map of Israel, Gaza, and the occupied territories conjures up only one other example: apartheid-era South Africa. The Israeli government, on an ongoing basis, declares parcels of land on which Palestinians live to be either of military or archaeological importance, causing residents to be evicted. Sometimes there's a court case, and almost always the Palestinians lose. Yet months or weeks later, that same important land suddenly becomes home to a brand new Israeli settlement. As more and more Jewish settlers take over land on which Arabs live, the occupied West Bank becomes de facto more Israeli and, in the explicit hopes of the Israeli government, more Jewish. This is a long-standing attempt and a deliberate attempt to force Arabs who have lived in that land, sometimes for hundreds of years, out. It's an attempt to dilute their presence, because to have Arabs as full participants is, in the opinion of the Israeli government and their courts, diluting Israel.
What does that even mean? What does that even mean? Right? That's just the standard racist response to immigration, right? They're taking over our culture, and they're, replacing us, this shit is real. This shit is real. So the moment when Palestinian journalists were targeted by an Israeli sniper, so they're being shot at, they're being targeted by weapons that we pay for. Okay, weapons that were funded by the United States. I don't know where they're, the IDF gets a good chunk of its money from the United States for its equipment and gear. And this is what they're using it for.
أمل إطلاق الرصاص علينا بشكل مباشر، وأصيب الآن الزميل محمود فوزي برصاصة في يده. إصابة مصدرة بحمد الله. جيب إسعاف، جيب إسعاف، سرعة إسعاف، جيب إسعاف سرعة. بسيطة بسيطة بسيطة. في ايده في ايده.
So it's intentional. They're targeting journalists. They're making it more dangerous to be a journalist in Israel. They're desperately trying to prevent the story from getting out, and it's the Streisand effect. You know, the more brutal they are, the more the story gets out. You know, when they murdered that journalist, they shot her right in the head. One of the most popular Palestinian journalists. They wouldn't even let her coffin be properly, part of, there's a funeral procession where the coffin is carried through the crowd and people are allowed to, say their last goodbyes in that way. And the Israeli IDF soldiers, bullied and pushed the people that were holding the coffin, almost tipping the coffin over, the coffin almost falling to the ground. And, because the people holding the coffin were literally being like pummeled and beaten by the Israeli soldiers. So this is what your money is paying for, folks. If you're an American, this is where that, when Ted Cruz gets up there and says, I'll defend Israel to the death, this is what we're paying for. This is what we're defending. That's what he's talking about. And Ted Cruz doesn't care about these people. He doesn't care about Israel. He doesn't care about Palestine. What he cares about is that his supporters think they care about it. And it's a really easy win, right? He gets money. He gets money for his campaign. He gets votes. He gets votes from, weirdo religious people that want to see the apocalypse happen, and are, encouraging Israel to continue with its slaughter of the Palestinians because that will somehow trigger some kind of rapture or biblical apocalypse. So they support that. So Ted Cruz doesn't really care about any of this. He just cares that he gets votes, and he gets money. So it's like it's a win-win. I just say I got to support this place that I'll visit once in a while, maybe for like a political PR stunt, but I don't give a shit. I don't care. I don't care about the Palestinian. I don't care about any of that. I'm Ted Cruz. Who cares? Give me votes. Give me money. So if you're confused about what the hell is happening here, an Israeli occupation force attacked the Palestinian families of Silwan while picking their olive trees and detained some of them. So, one of the ways the Palestinian people make money is by olives. They have, they're very famous for their olives, apparently. And these Palestinians were out here, on their property picking their own olives. And this is a spot where Israel eventually wants to, they don't want to occupy it or whatever they want to call it, right? So they're intimidating these people, pretending like, they're some kind of threat when they're literally just picking olives. And it's a power thing, right? It's saying, well, these aren't your olives anymore. These are Israeli olives. You're on Israeli property. You're, violating rules that we're making up on the fly. And everyone's okay with it. And Americans are paying for this. They're perfectly okay with our taxpayer dollars going to harass this man and his family trying to pick olives from a tree. Is does Ted Cruz mention that part when he's giving himself a fucking self-flagellation for supporting Israel, and for that matter Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, and Barack Obama, are they patting themselves on the back when they see their taxpayer dollar at work? Make sure that this guy can't pick some olives from a tree. Why? Because Israel is going to bulldoze him pretty soon. That's what's going to happen. And they're basically, getting that area ready to, bulldoze and install new settlements. That's what the fuck's going to happen. I'm sorry. Did I just see a clown? I think I just saw a clown. Yeah, look, there's a clown right here. What in the world? What in the hell is this? Is this pro-Israeli? Is this an Israeli soldier dressing like this for some reason? What in the world is this? Or is this some kind of protest against the Israel? Because if this person is pro-Palestine, they're pretty damn close to Israel here. It looks like she's working with Israel. What in the what? What is this? This is just bizarre, dude. So they got pro-Israeli, pro-kill and occupy Palestinian land clowns? Can someone help me, please? What? I don't understand this. I don't get the clown thing. What's up with the clown? I'll ask the question, see if I get a response. Yeah, what's up with the clown in the crowd? The fuck? It's fucking weird. That Israeli police idea of heart and mind program? Is that what it is? Is this their version of treating people with respect? Is dressing isn't there a Jewish clown kind of thing? Isn't that a thing? I don't know. Fuck, that's weird. Wait, meet the clown of Jerusalem who brings love and laughter to violent protests. Oh my God. Oh my God. Sorry, what? Az Ulay, the clown in front of Israeli police officers during a demonstration of occupied East Jerusalem. Wow. So they're weaponizing mercy and peace. They're putting this weapon of mercy and peace in front of their brutality, so that they can claim victimhood throughout the entire process. We just want peace. We just want peace. That's why we have to kick you out. We just want peace. Just be nice. Everyone just be nice while we're forcibly removing you from your home. Everyone just be civil and nice while we bulldoze your olive fields. Wow, dude. Wow, man. This is twisted. This is twisted, man. So not only are you getting kicked out by American trained, American armed and equipped foot soldiers, but you have this actual clown who's then telling everyone, oh, calm down, everyone, calm down. You're just getting your land stolen. You're just getting your home taken out. You're just being forcibly evicted. Everyone calm down. We just want peace and love. We just want peace and love. Wow, man. Maybe that's not the case. Let me read this. Across the city, clown character sprouting braces. In Jerusalem, it's inevitable that you see things blow up in blood. I don't want to let the pain and hate and violence rule my life and the life of this city. She has since taken her performance at demonstrations, as well as Palestinian rallies in occupied East Jerusalem, where she has faced injury and arrest. Okay. They don't want her there. They don't want her there. Okay. I didn't want to enter violence or anything. I was scared. I went to just see out of curiosity, she said, after being drawn to a demonstration against Benjamin Netanyahu when he was prime minister. As Ulay, an Israeli from Jerusalem, has studied theater in the U.S., decided to return as a clown police officer and hand out stickers. It seems naive and simple, but it's actually saying, I see you. This is what people want, just to be seen, she said. Her character's full Hebrew name, Az Ulay Ya Yoder Tav, means then maybe things will be better. Parts of the costume play on the police uniform. Instead of a radio, she wears a soft heart attached to a cable, while a butterfly replaces a baton. Staying in a Jerusalem garden, she mimics the officers. She has been marching down the streets, pointing to their weapons. Okay, I see what she's doing. Az Ulay describes the heavily armed officers as being dressed up like robots who throw stun grenades at civilians like sweets. Okay, okay, now I'm starting to get it. I take it all back. I see what she's doing. Okay. This picture makes it seem like she's being weaponized. Yeah, she's a protester. They don't want her to be here. She's an Israeli citizen. I take it all back. I take it all back. She's not a weapon. She's not a tool at all. She's trying to point out the ludicrousness of the whole situation. Stun grenades, which explode with ear-piercing bang and shatter into pieces, are used regularly against crowds by Israeli police. The appearance of a clown is intended to make people open up to others in deeply divided city. So this is where this is like a cultural thing. This is like a cultural confusion with clowns. In heavily Jewish cultures, clowns are received a little differently. As Ulay, as well as challenge the perception that weaponry protects residents. The narrative we've grown up on is that just with the power of our force we are safe. I bring another narrative and it's very hard to swallow, she said. Damn, she's actually legit, dude. She's actually quite brave. While Az Ulay is greeted positively by most demonstrators, some people respond angrily. I could imagine. We got very, very tangled. We grew up into fear and to hate, into narratives that block our heart and our mind, she said. She's right. After more than a year attending protests, Az Ulay was arrested last December. She admitted to shouting at a police officer in Sheikh Jarrah in East Jerusalem neighborhood where numerous Palestinians have been served eviction orders by Israeli courts. So she puts herself in between the police and the Palestinians. That's what we saw her doing. That's why she was so close. That's why she was so fucking close. I thought she was working with she was so close to the Israeli police, I thought she was working with them. No. She's there to put herself in between the cops and the Palestinians. This is an amazing woman. She admitted to shouting at a police officer in Sheikh Jarrah in East Jerusalem neighborhood where numerous Palestinians have been served eviction orders by Israeli courts. Police told the National she was detained for breach of public order, obstructing policemen, and insulting a public official. After spending a few days in jail, Az Ulay returned to demonstrations. In video footage taken in April near the city's Damascus Gate, a police officer repeatedly hits Az Ulay with a gun while other officers detain a child. Police said she was interfering with the police work and thwarting them. They said she was evacuated from the area rather than arrested. Yeah, she's a hero. She was desperately trying to protect a Palestinian child. She said she was at a march by Israeli nationalists last Sunday when one of the participants used pepper spray against a Palestinian woman nearby. The clown has a heart sticker between her eyebrows and a golden genie attached to her waist. into which children whisper their wishes, but Azule cannot predict how the violence will end in Jerusalem. Instead, she asked why the focus is still on force rather than questioning the status quo. 100% correct. She's totally with it. She knows exactly what she's doing. We are investing in bullets. This is our investment. So what do we think will happen? She said. That's a great point. Great point. If you plant a seed of melon, you'll have a melon. If you plant bullets, you'll have bullets. Yeah, no, I take it all back. I thought this woman was being weaponized by the Israelis as to, like, you know, some kind of bizarre propaganda theater, and and that's not the case at all. She's actually incredibly heroic. Israeli citizen, knows that she has privileges that these Palestinians don't get to enjoy, and intentionally throwing her body in between the Palestinians and the Israeli goon squad. This woman's an absolute hero. This woman is an absolute hero. So big fucking props to Azule. Azule, the clown of Jerusalem who brings love and laughter to violent protests. Thank you, Azule, and keep up the good work. And may you be protected out there by whatever you believe in. I'm sure it's a long conversation we could have. But yeah, a little bit more of this, Israel. A little bit more of this, and now we're talking. So that's amazing stuff. Thank you so much. Who gave me that link? Thank you so much, Woke Patriot. Big props to Woke Patriot for giving me that link, giving us some context on why there's a fully dressed clown wandering around a incredibly violent Israeli-Palestinian protest. Give some context, and it also gives you an idea of just how serious the issue is. I mean, this woman is, making a literal fool of herself. She's literally dressing as a clown, but she's doing it. She's doing this to tell the world that, this is real. This is an issue. This needs to be looked at. Everyone needs to be seen. Brilliant. That's how powerful political theater can be, folks. It can be an extremely powerful tool for political activism. And, I hope one day to see an Azule statue in Jerusalem, maybe standing right between the Israeli and Palestinian portions of Jerusalem, maybe a statue of her standing right in between those borders, in an effort to bridge that divide. Truly beautiful stuff. And thank you, Woke Patriot, for that. I think I showed this before, but God damn it, I'm going to show it again. I think it's hilarious. A little bit of more effective performance art here. What if the strategies of Israel were brought to the rest of the world? What would that look like?
Hello, mate. Is this your shop? I'm sure you're aware the Israeli embassy is extending. This is where you are here. And the Israeli embassy is going to actually extend the whole way over there so they can have a conservatory.
I don't think so.
We have to take down this wall here.
Before it was your land, it was our land.
Yeah.
So we're really going to take what's rightfully ours.
Thanks for looking after it, though. Really.
Yeah.
This is going to be
Thanks for looking after it, though.
one part of the extension of the Israeli embassy just down the road.
Have they got planning for this?
Well, we don't really need planning. We've got a very, very old planning book. It's about 2,000 years old.
Without putting too fine a point on it, mate, they're going to bulldoze your land. Okay.
Can I have a letter, something that can...
Well, we generally go with the bulldozers first and letters later. And you see all those olives you've got in the deli display there? They're ours as well. It's not like taking someone's land is a big deal.
We've been doing it for years. I mean, what's the problem?
So you mean to tell me this is proposed?
I don't see what you're talking about proposed. This is our land as given to us by the Almighty. I'm finding that smile a bit anti-Semitic, mate, so I think you should really wipe that off your face.
I'm finding that smile a bit anti-Semitic.
If they want it here... Well, it's the Israeli embassy, basically, mate. What we're doing is we're sort of like...
This may not be Israeli land, but this area here, actually all the way up until here.
I just think you're being a bit anti-Semitic. It's only a conservatory, and I mean, look, at the end of the day, all we're trying to do is build a wall around here to make sure that our conservatory can come out. It's going to look really nice.
It's gonna look really nice. I don't know why you're being so anti-Semitic with all this. I just thought that was funny. Over here, I thought this was great. This was really a powerful statement, and we see these powerful statements every single year. This is not a new story. In fact, this program being implemented by Israel to assimilate the Palestinians is almost complete. And imagine if you will, if the world never really gave that much of a shit about apartheid and it just never ended. And it was just always this thing that just always happened until finally, one side had just basically slowly, defeated the other side. Of course, the dynamics are a little bit different, geography, right? The apartheid South Africa is a little bit bigger than Israel Palestine, but imagine if just it was an incredible crime that was happening in front of everybody, and it was just, well, it's kind of awkward to talk about because there's a lot of powerful people that'd like to see this happen, so we're just not going to talk about it, and we're just not going to talk about it, and like, I don't know if that's, okay. That's kind of what's happening here with Israel Palestine. It's just this ongoing crime that no one gives a shit about.
If Nelson Mandela were alive today, he would say that it takes a moral depravity of the most evil kind, a base and reckless kind of leadership, to precipitate in a premeditated manner the atrocities which the UN Charter sought to prevent, and to ensure that humanity never again witnesses the atrocities seen during the Second World War. Yet this is happening again. It would have been inexplicable for the Human Rights Council, the moral conscience of the world, not to have convened today. Not to have done so would have said that the Human Rights Council is deaf to the cries of the women and children of Palestine, who cry out for justice and the right to live in peace and under highly constrained political circumstances. A people shorn of hope, but marching with their dignity, as the Special Rapporteur has told us. We all knew what the consequences of the relocation of the US Embassy to Jerusalem would be. Sadly, our fears have been realized. It needs to be understood, Mr. President, that when a state is being held accountable for its actions, it cannot blackmail the global community in a perverse manner. It is correct to criticize the state of Israel for its actions. As said by Rabbi Lutz, you can challenge the Israeli government's policies without being anti-Semitic. Therefore, it is correct to hold Israel accountable today. Mr. President, South Africans under apartheid have experienced what we're witnessing happening in the Gaza Strip. South Africa has lived through this. Under apartheid, we had a government at war with its children and bent on dehumanizing African people in the same manner that the State of Israel is doing to the people of Palestine. In conclusion, it is appropriate, Mr. President, for the Human Rights Council to stand up to bullies, for in essence, they are cowards. I thank you.
Boom. Boom. You gotta respect the realness. And, every time there's a meeting, every time there's a COP 20, COP whatever, G this, G that, there's statements like this that are made. Everyone knows, no one cares, not the right people care, right? Because the one who's allowing it to happen is the United States. Bizarrely, because honestly, we have the power over Israel. I think we could tell them to knock this off, right? We could give them an ultimatum and say, look, you don't G19, okay, all right, yeah. But there's also like the G7, G whatever. There's a bunch of different Gs. It's not just the G20 or now G19. Anyway, I would really like to see some, movement on this in the positive side. But so here's, and this is the last video I have today. From the words of a Palestinian woman, I want my home. I want my home. This Palestinian woman collapsed outside of her home in Beirut, in Noon, north of Hebron, as Israeli forces demolished the home. The same Israeli forces crowded and harassed her and her family as she grieved. So this 22-year-old, and this 20 something, bullying this 60-year-old, 40, 50-year-old woman. Maybe she's actually in her 30s. I'm not quite sure, but You know, just she's got her sons. You know, they're in front of their house that's getting demolished, and they're like, "You got to go. You got to leave. You got to go. Get out of here. Go. Leave. You scum. Get out of here. You're breaking the rules. We're gonna bust you up. You're breaking the law, lawbreaker." You know, I mean, it's twisted. It's twisted. And the thing that disgusts me the most, and it's why I keep repeating it, is that we are paying for this. This is coming out of your motherfucking pocket. You want to pay for this?
بس الوقت خلاص يما خليكي يعني انا بدي على يما ورجيني بطاقة حدين ورجيني اشوف شو اسكت وين انا بدي على يما دار يما خلص يما انا بدي خلص يما اعطونا قرار هدم فيها اعطونا قرار هدم اعطونا قرار هدم دكتور اعطيني قرار هدم هنا ودك هدم دكتور سبينا دكتور انا داري دكتور على عندي محامي
There they are throwing the possessions out. They're going to bulldoze this and then replace it with a cheap trailer park-like trailer. Usually is what they do. They, you know, in an effort to get something in as quickly as possible, they'll move in these little cheap fucking trailers. So they got to bulldoze it first, though, so that there's nothing to come back to. And then they got to put an Israeli psychopath, quote-unquote settler, on top of that. And then basically hold the occupation, hold the land.
גם אתה בבקשה עד הפח הירוק או שאני אצור אתכם? חבר'ה.
There you go. So that's what's happening all across Gaza, all across Palestine, you know, whatever's left of Palestine. And this is how they do it. It's a very slow, creeping occupation. And, you know, what happens is that, you know, eventually the Palestinian people get fed up and they start to push back, and then Israel uses that violence as justification for an extreme violence against the Palestinians and further land grabs. And they're probably hoping that, you know, I'm sure the new right-wing government, Bibi Netanyahu and this other right-wing psychopath, are waiting, you know, waiting in a very excited manner for, you know, for another infantada, or however the fuck you say it. But it's basically just a big decree that says, you know, we're going to, you know, go to war against the Israeli people. And they're probably going to use that as a pretense to do the final, you know, final solution, however you want to call it. But the final, you know, push into, you know, putting the Palestinian people into, you know, reservations similar to Indian reservations here in the United States. You could call them concentration camps. They won't be like concentration camps, though. They'll be more like reservations. You know, maybe when they finally go into the reservation model, they'll open up and allow the Palestinian people to finally trade medicine and cooking oil. Who knows? But right now, they're going to continue this program of destroying the Palestinian people and their ability to fight back. And eventually, this little project will be complete, and you know, all of us lefties will be sit here wondering, well, does it pay to be brutal? And, you know, does it pay to just say, you know, fuck a whole group of people and Can the United States and Israel really just get away with such a massive crime and people are just going to move on with their lives, like it's the fucking 17th century, like this is some kind of ancient history kind of conquering situation. Well, might makes right, and Israel's more powerful, and there you go. That's the end of that. I also wonder what's going to happen when Israel does complete its project and the apocalypse doesn't happen. What will be the excuse then? What will evangelicals do with all of their support for Israel? How will that pivot? It will probably splinter into a million different directions, but eventually there has to be a realization that, hey, Israel has full control over everything, and where's our apocalypse? And where's this apocalypse supposed to happen? They have Jerusalem now. What happened? Anyway, there you go, YouTube. That's my Israeli coverage. Thanks again, YouTube, for demonetizing this video. Greatly appreciate it.